Hello, I am GOOSE, and here I am, continuing the Robot Master rankings of each mainline Mega Man game, 1 month at a time. Some of you might think this is going to be a prank video since it's the 1st of April, but nope. All of these Mega Man Robot Master rankings are on the 1st of the month, so this might be one of the few genuine videos you see today. Honestly, I didn't think I'd be rushing so hard to get these done by the 1st of each month so often, but that's just what happens when you start cranking out videos like crazy, I guess. I mean, crazy in the context of me, having a full-time job and everything. I mean, getting as many long-form videos out each month as I do is, I don't know, I take pride in. I think it's kind of impressive. But that's enough of that stuff. Today I'm going to be going after the Robot Masters in Mega Man 3. It's very simple. I have 10 different categories I'm ranking each Robot Master on from a scale of 1 to 10, totaling up to a possible perfect score of 100. If you've forgotten, I'll just have them scroll over here to the left of me. You can pause if you want to read them. But odds are you're probably watching all of the ranking videos in order right now, so there's no need for me to refresh your memory. But before we get started, I just wanted to thank you guys for the support that this series has been getting. Normally my videos don't often break 500 views, but both of the Robot Master rankings so far have gotten 600 at least, if not more. And a lot of people have been subscribing because of them, which is great, because I'm hoping to breach the 10,000 subscriber mark before the end of the year. I think I can do it with your guys' help. Well, I mean, obviously I can't do it on my own. I can't subscribe to myself. I've been wasting enough time. We gotta hurry up and get started with the rankings. Our time is short. Mega Man 3 is our target for the video. Let's begin. Needleman is our first contestant today. For design, he is one of the more unique-looking robots, one of the first benefactors of the Airman body type, and it pays off quite well for him. I think he's more of an improvement, with more defined shoulders and upper body, in contrast to Airman, who just has a solid blob for his top half. Not to say that Airman's design is inferior or anything, but from a shape language perspective, I much prefer Needleman. Especially with the spikes on top, they almost look like a crown. I'll give him an 8 for design. For creativity, this is another one of those Robot Masters where if you take away one defining trait, they just become man. In the first game, it was Cut Man, in the second game, it was Metal Man, and in this case, it's the removal of the 3 needles on the top of his head that caused Needleman's demotion to a plain old man. Although with that big red nose on his face, he looks a little more like Clown Man. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to Mega Man 8. Anyways, they did pretty good with what they had to work with, which was, needles. So I'll slap on a 5 for creativity. For purpose, we have an energy miner here, using his needle cannon to pierce through stone and bedrock. This is probably the most interesting method of land development we've seen in this ranking so far, so I'll give him a 7. For personality, Needleman is described as an intellect with a dry wit. Sarcasm is fun and all, but what I really enjoy are his likes and dislikes. His hobbies include knitting, crochet, and, well, basically anything that involves needles. However, he is deathly afraid of injections and other medical procedures, which also require needles. Love him or hate him, you can't deny that Needleman stays on theme, even down to his hobbies outside of work. I'll give him an 8. And for his weapon, we have the Needle Cannon, a spread shot of needles that can pierce up to 10-inch stones. Now, 10-inch needles doesn't have quite the same ring as 9-inch nails, but I think Needleman has potential to start a funny little parody band. Also, the Needle Cannon is neither his only ability or his coolest ability. Those 3 spikes on the top of his head can be sprung out for a powerful close-range attack called the Needle Headbutt, which is badass. I'll give Needleman an 8 for weapon. For safety, yeah, I'm not so sure. All he does is spout spikes, plus the spikes on his head at all times. I'll give him a 4. And for utility, it's pretty tough for these Robot Masters with no arms. That always stumps him for utility. I suppose he could be used for some kind of land development if you want a bunch of holes in the ground. I don't know, I'll give him a 3. For intimidation, I can't deny he's a little bit of a cutie pie, but spikes are scary. So pointy prickly. I'll balance him out by giving him a 5. And as for music, genuinely one of the best mainline Mega Man tracks, hands down. It's got a good runtime, there's a lot of variety in the sound throughout, and it's very memorable. Probably my top 10 Megaman tracks, easy. And that's why it gets a 10. And finally, preference. I gotta say, I quite like Needleman. He's like Airman, but shaped slightly different in a way that makes me like him more. I'll give him an 8.75. Now then, all in all, Needleman managed to rack up a total of 64.75%, which seems to be about the middle ground of the Robot Masters so far, if not on the higher end of scores. Oilman and Bombman really skewed the data by being so horrendous. And to my surprise, the community does not seem to favor him as much. 58%? Really? That doesn't seem all that fair. Well, I guess that's why I'm making this series then, to show off how my opinion differs from the community as a whole. But anyways, to get straight to the point... Yeah, you like what I did there? Because of the needles? Please tell me you got it, guys. Listen, I need a win right now. I'm clever, I swear! Now, I know I've said throughout this series that a good Robot Master design makes their abilities obvious by their appearance alone, but I think this is a little on the nose. You don't need a bachelor's degree in design to understand what this guy does. Magnet Man! For design, I can't deny that I'm charmed, but I feel like there was a better way to go about the magnet idea than just slapping a magnet right on his face. His color scheme would get that idea across pretty decently, with the red and white looking like some kind of cartoon magnet. Though I would have added some blue somewhere to represent the opposing polarities. That's neither here nor there, though. Similarly to Quickman and Mega Man 2, Mega Man Battle Network did quite a good job reworking this design into something a little more interesting. But I won't let that sway my opinion of the original design. I'll give it like a 5 for design and a 4 for creativity. For purpose, the Mega Man knowledge base says that Magnet Man was created to generate powerful magnetic forces. That's not it's not really a purpose. It's more of an ability than anything. And it doesn't state what Magnet Man really does as a job, or even where, before Dr. Wily reprogrammed him for combat. To be fair, I'm not really sure where Magnet Man would work, aside from maybe a scrapyard. I don't know why there's nothing here. I'll give him like a 2 for not technically having a purpose at all. I don't know. As for personality, Magnet Man is a strong leader and tactician, but can be abrasive at times. He's quite health conscious despite being a robot, getting massages and doing magnetic therapy, haha. I was gonna give him like just a 7 here, but at the very end of his personality section on the Mega Man knowledge base, it says that he magnetizes himself to the ceiling while he sleeps. And that's gonna bump him up to an 8, because that's funny. For his weapon, Magnet Man wields the Magnet Missile, a homing missile that's attracted to enemies. It mainly works against Mega Man or for Mega Man, because everything you fight in these games is either a robot or inside a robot, so I'm not sure how powerful it would be against something made of flesh. Despite just being a magnet with a rocket attached, I'd find it pretty fun. I'll give it a 7. As for safety, I initially thought Magnet Man might not be the safest due to him being a big old magnet. And because of how tech-heavy the modern day is, I figured he might cause too much trouble scrambling computers to be considered safe, on top of his, explosive homing magnets. However, I learned during research for this video that most computers in the modern day are largely immune to the damage magnets might do to older computers or CRTs. So he might actually be okay. Still giving him a 6, though, because of the explosives, but it could have been a 2 or something, so to the one Magnet Man fan, be grateful. Okay, it's me. I'm the one Magnet Man fan, and I am grateful. For utility, he may not find as grand a use as someone like Airman or Cutman, but magnets are pretty damn useful. And on top of that, he is a man, so with the average utility of a human on top of his magnet powers, plus the missiles, I'll give Magnet Man an 8. For intimidation, this is where a lot of Robot Masters kind of fall short. I mean, I have to give him like a 3 for obscuring his face, because that makes him look a little more menacing, but he feels a lot more like a Saturday morning cartoon villain, or like some kind of tokusatsu monster than something to actually be afraid of. For music, it's not what I expected for Magnet Man, but an absolute masher. Not quite as good as Needleman's theme, but very strong still. I'll give it a 9. Honestly, I think Mega Man 3 might have one of the best soundtracks in terms of Robot Masters for the classic series, but don't at me. Actually, maybe do at me in the comments, like argue with me. I think that might help with the algorithm, but don't tell anyone that I told you to do that. And lastly, we have preference. Listen, I have a bit of a soft spot for this guy. When I was in 4th grade, we had to do a short comic strip about forces, and I chose magnets. So, I made a story about a hero named Magnet Man, and he was just a stick man with a magnet for a head and a cape. And if I were to just translate that exact design into the modern day, all the Mega Man 3 Magnet Man would need is a cape, and he's basically what I thought of. I'll give Magnet Man a 7.04. That feels about right. Finally, we have approached the totals. Magnet Man has gathered up a score of 59.04%. Just barely missing the 60% mark, which I think is primarily the fault of his lack of a proper purpose, as well as his middling design, which is a neat contrast to what normally happens, where a Robot Master looks really cool but is too dangerous or lacks the utility outside of its normal purpose. It resulted in a pretty standard score, so no big deal. And as for the popularity poll, I'm surprised that Magnet Man was scored so high. 67%? That puts him right alongside Airman. No offense to Magnet Man, bless his heart, but I figured he would be the one with a popularity ranking in the 50s rather than Needleman. But that's not important. Overall, Magnet Man makes for a pretty good Robot Master, despite looking like a doof. I guess the old saying is true. You can't judge a sentient robot by the giant magnet on its face. It's time for a 2-for-1 special with Gemini Man. Except it's not, because he's just one guy. I have lied to you. I'm sorry. In terms of design, Gemini Man looks pretty cool. He's almost like a human version of Silver the Hedgehog. He looks quite different from most other Robot Masters. There aren't many that go for almost pure black and white in their design, but it pays off, because he looks great. I'll give him a 7. For creativity, I'm not sure how this reads as Gemini, though. I suppose just putting the astrological symbol would be too on the nose. Don't want to go the way of Magnet Man. Though I will say with his seemingly reflective body, as well as his design being perfectly symmetrical, plays into his mirroring ability a lot, which I guess is where the Gemini name comes from. So fair is fair. I'll give him a 5. And for purpose, Gemini Man was created to make holographic copies of himself. The Mega Man knowledge base specifies it's for combat, so I suppose I'll just give him a 5, like the Mega Man 2 Robot Masters. It's just weird that 2 robots in a row haven't had a real purpose. I mean, at least Gemini Man has combat, but it's strange. For personality, he's about what you'd expect, a conceited narcissist who enjoys using his clones as mirrors to admire himself. He seems to have a fear of snakes, but it appears it's only because of his weakness to Snake Man's weapon. Probably one of the weaker personalities I've seen given to one of these guys, but it's better than nothing. I'll give him a 6, because admiring your clone in place of a mirror is a funny concept. As for his weapon, aside from using his clones to confuse his enemy, he wields the Gemini laser, a big old laser blast that moves kinda slow and bounces all around the walls. I suppose this is because of his whole mirror gimmick with his clones, and mirrors are reflective. It's an interesting weapon at least, so I'll give it a 7. For safety, aside from putting himself before others, he seems pretty tame. If he shoots a laser, just make sure to sidestep it, because that bitch moves slower than a laser. For utility, I gotta give him a 10. How could you not? His power is just giving you more manpower. You can't get much better than having the ability to make multiple copies of yourself. As long as they don't spend all day looking at each other, I guess. For intimidation, I can't deny he might be a little more imposing than the average Robot Master, and I imagine that's even more so when he has multiple clones active. I'll give him a 7. For music, I'm afraid it's another 10. It's such a catchy tune, and that part at the end before the loop is really strong. Mega Man 3 is just crazy good musically. I'm curious how many more times I can repeat that throughout this section. And finally, preference. Despite the praises I've been singing, I don't really have any strong feelings for or against this guy. I much prefer other Robot Masters in this game before Gemini Man, so it's not like I dislike him, he just is not the first to come to mind. I'll give him like a 5.78. Now then, let's tally it up. Gemini Man manages to get a score of 70.78%. Not a score to sneeze at, for sure. Honestly, anything above 60% is a passing grade in my book. I'm surprised he wasn't higher. Seems like he would be more favored considering how cool he looks. But surprisingly, the community holds him in the same regard they do as Magnet Man, sitting somewhat comfortably at 67%. Shocking that he doesn't trounce Magnet Man. I guess he's just lucky. Anywho, big fan of this guy. Or guys. A very solid robot. He's just overshadowed by the other ones in this game. He's good, but that doesn't mean I like astrology. Now, for some of my older viewers, which I doubt is many, you may have heard younger people on the internet describing things as hard, which is just like cool, basically. When I hear someone call something hard, I think strong, I think sturdy, I think imposing. What you're about to see is the definition of strong, the definition of sturdy, the definition of imposing. What I'm about to show you is hard. Hard man. He kind of looks like one of those hug fruit barrels. You guys ever had those? In terms of design, Hard Man is, well, he's a blue oblong looking thing. He certainly looks heavy, and y'all know I'm a fan of big chunky robots, but I don't know. Something's missing here, some sort of additional features to make him stand out. He looks like a sports car that's still in primer, if that makes sense. Just lacking that last flash of color to complete him, so to speak. I'll have to give him a 7 for design and a 5 for creativity. For purpose, we are running into the same issue again. Hardman has no purpose. All it says on the Megaman knowledge base is that he is built out of ceratanium and is extremely heavy as a result. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to give him the Magnet Man treatment and slap another 2 in here. Just, come on, man, just have a purpose. Like, stomp grapes or something. I don't know. Flatten land. Do anything. For personality, Hardman is one of my favorites. A quiet man who likes fighting on equal terms, but is quite lazy due to his weight. He also likes sumo due to his weight being advantageous, but hates swimming because he'd sink like a stone. Very fun character. I feel like if they had gone for a more sumo aesthetic to accompany his favorite sport, it would have really given him the flair that I felt like he was missing. I'll give him a 9 for personality. Now, his methods of attack. Hardman can fire his rocket power fists, dubbed the Hard Knuckles, which is incredibly cool on its own. But one of his main abilities being jumping super high and trying to land on you, causing paralyzing tremors in the process, that's a bona fide 10 in my book. For safety, anything as heavy as Hardman is a safety hazard, I'm afraid. You seen those TikToks of the giant steel coil going down the road in BeamNG? That's Hardman. I'll see if I can find an example to show you guys. It'll be right here. So that's a 2. For utility, the only benefit I could see is that he could maybe shoot his fists to the fridge and get you a beer or grab something else from far away. Aside from that, I gotta give him like a 3. For intimidation, I'd have to say, a robot who makes the earth tremble with every step succeeds in getting me shaken in my boots. I'll give him an 8. For music, it's just, oh man, it's so good. Right up there with Needleman's theme is one of my favorites. There are too many good Mega Man songs, man. I can't keep giving out 10s like this. Wait a second. Yes, I can. This is my video. That's a 10. As for preference, I mean, come on, this guy rules. Hard-ass Robot Master who is the pinnacle of strength. With all these Robot Masters wielding blasters, blades, and elements, Hardman fights with his fists and is still on equal terms with his peers. Badass. That's a 9.56 right there. Alas, it's time for totals now. Hardman has a strong total of 65.56. Not bad, not bad. I just wish it were higher. Curse Hardman and his naturally dangerous attributes. The popularity poll really did him dirty, though. I mean, I can get not being charmed by him as much as me, but 53%? That's tragic! It's not fair! And I am not one to stand for this. Well, I won't stand for any internet opinion, really. I sit in my broken-ass office chair and eat Cheeto Puffs and maybe sob a little. Anyways, Hardman is awesome, and everyone should love him too. My favorite superhero. Top Man! Now this guy rocks. He had potential to be like the corniest robot master of all time, and they somehow still did a really good job. Let's get into it. For design, I'm shocked. By some miracle, the concept of an attack top was converted into not only a competent robot design, but a cool looking one at that. This was nearly a decade before Beyblade did the cool combat tops thing, by the way. Though I wonder how Top Man might have changed if he had been made after Beyblade released. I feel like the aesthetics of that series might have rubbed off on Top Man a little bit. Anyways, I'll give him an 8 for design. For creativity, I gotta flame the choice of just making his head a top, but the roller skate shoes are clean as fuck, so I'll give him the best and worst combined with a 5. Now here's the funny part. Top Man actually has a purpose, unlike the last 3 Robot Masters we've talked about. I can guarantee you wouldn't be able to guess what it is, though. Genuinely, if you don't already know, there is no way you could guess. Well, let's do a little exercise real quick. I want you to come up with an idea in your head real quick of what Top Man could have possibly been built for. Okay, do you got one? Perfect. Now, if you didn't guess interplanetary energy harvesting, then I'm afraid you do not have bingo this time around. Better luck next time. Yeah, when Dr. Light and Wily were banding together to create the ultimate peacekeeping machine, they needed to find a proper, efficient energy source that they couldn't find on Earth. So they thought, ah yes, this one will spin very fast. It's perfect. And for the humor in that alone, I've got to give him a 9. Like, come on. Looking at his personality, it seems like he's quite the charmer, usually being sent out to make more beneficial arrangements for Dr. Wily. Despite that, he's not a good liar, which doesn't seem like a very good combo of abilities and role. He also likes roller skating, which I hope he would, otherwise having them permanently fitted to your body would suck. I'll give his personality a 7. For his weapons, Top Man has the top spin. Shocker. Not only can he shoot harmful tops from the top of his head that spin around, but he can also spin his own body and zoom around, reflecting all projectiles in the process. However, spinning himself makes him very dizzy, so he can't do it for very long. Ingenious design choice, by the way. Yes, let's program vertigo into our robot whose main method of attack is spinning. Dr. Light and Dr. Wily are both Dr. Stupid. I'll give his weapons a 7. For safety, all he does is go fast. I can't really complain there, just don't throw anything at him while he spins, or else you'll get it right back at you. I'll give him an 8. For intimidation, I'm so sorry, Top Man. Just look at a mirror. That's a 3 from me. Poor baby. As fun as this design is, I don't think I'd be getting any intimidating feelings from this, even if I was cornered in a dark alley by him. For utility, that's gonna be a 9. It's just a faster person. It's already good. But he can go into space, too, which could be useful for, not sure what the average Joe would do to make use of that, but I'm, sure there's something, right? You won't need DoorDash when you have Top Man is what I'm trying to get at. And finally, for music, Top Man gets a 9. Not quite as good as the other songs in this game. It's just a little too short and lacking in audio variety throughout, but still quite good. And finally, the preference stat. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Top Man is getting my 10 of this game. I don't know how to articulate it, but there's just something about him that just scratches the Megaman itch. He's just the right amount of ridiculous, cool, and dorkish to be my favorite of this game. Maybe only overshadowed by Hardman, but that's just dependent on my mood at the time. Anyways, let's see how Top Man fares in score. we have a nice and neat score of 75% for Top Man. That's like 3/4, so that's gotta mean something to someone. Definitely deserved. What shocked me, though, was his popularity poll score. I could have sworn people liked this guy more than this. 56%. That's not terrible, but it's the second worst in this game. I figured he would at least break 60. A real shame, I suppose. Come what may, I will not be shaken. Top Man is really cool. And he's kind of hot, guys, I can't lie. I am well adjusted, I swear. Snake Man. Nope. No cool intro or fanfare like the others. We've got a man with a fucking snake on his head. Brilliant design. No notes. I lied. I have several notes! This is one of the prime examples of wasted potential in this entire series. You can't just take one of the coolest reptiles, second to gators by the way, shout out gators, and just slap that onto a basic-ass robot. Another case of take off one thing and it's just a default robot. Snakes do not have legs! How do you mess this up? They could have gone somewhere in the direction of Lamias, or Medusa even. That would have been a really cool path to take this design. But no, instead we have a guy with a fucking snake on his head. I understand that this was the first Robot Master with an animal theme ever, and we were just barely scratching the surface of how unique Robot Masters could look, like with the Airman body type as an example. But come on! This is just look at him, it's sad! The only good thing I can say about Snake Man's design is that the snake's tail kind of looks like a ponytail, which is a little bit cool. Unfortunately, Snake Man is getting 2 1s. 1 for design, and 1 for creativity. The good news is, we can only go up from here. For purpose, Snake Man and Top Man are actually not too far off, as Snake Man was created to survey topography on uninhabited planets marked for development. Which I admit, doing interplanetary caving, or any type of caving, is probably the best job he could have. It's also another example of why he shouldn't have legs. But whatever. This guy was created before I was even born, so I don't get a say. I'll give him a 6. For personality, he clashes with Hardman quite a bit, being scheming, spiteful, and shrewd, getting a lot of enjoyment out of hunting and cornering his opponents. I like that balance, so I'll give him a 6, plain and simple. For weapon, Snake Man does something right. The Search Snakes, little crawly explosives that move along the ground and explode on contact, going so far as to climb up walls, which is pretty neat. But I'm still bitter that they didn't use any of his actual snake body stuff for his real design, so I'm giving him a 5. I don't think anybody will be mad about this. For safety and utility, I have to wonder, how much utility is this guy going to have in the average person's life? Especially considering that he's a schemer. I can't say that I would trust this guy, so I'll give him like a 5 for safety and a 3 for utility. And as for intimidation, yeah, no. Maybe if he were something cool like a Lamia or Medusa, but oh well. 2. Now for the one redeeming quality. His theme. Genuinely top 3 Megaman themes by a landslide. This song is so good. Absolute earworm. It's a shame that it's attributed to such a fucking smoke show. Or should I say snake show? And finally, preference. He's just, ugh, I hate this guy. Can we, like, get him off this, just censor him. Just put a mosaic over him. I'm sick of looking at him. 2.6. Now for totals. Snake Man has managed a pitiful 41.6%, putting him right in front of his old buddies Bomb Man and Oil Man. A very deserving score for a very undeserving Robot Master. Now then, let's see how he ranked in the popularity poll. Huh? 73%? Are we having a joke right now? Now, I can sort of rationalize this with the thought of people only having his little theme song in mind when scoring him, but even then, this is an unexcusable number to be attributed to fucking Snake Man. Be so for real right now. That is ridiculousness. Snake Man himself is ridiculousness. And I'm sick and tired of talking about him, so we're gonna move on. Once again, no fanfare. Fuck this guy. Sparkman, not to be confused with Spark Mandrill, who is not to be confused with Drill Man. I have conflicting feelings on this guy. Sparkman, not the other two. His design is pretty on the nose, being literally just a spark plug with arms and legs. I admire their tenacity to fully commit to the bit when making this character, though, so that earns him a 6 for creativity in my book. If it wasn't obvious by now, I really dig the designs that stray away from the normal design formula. However, I can't explain why. His little sprite with the completely shadowed face and detailed midsection makes him look a little uncanny. Almost like a skeleton. I still think the main design is cool, just that one detail kind of confuses me. I'll give him a 7 for design. For his purpose, Sparkman was designed to charge equipment that runs on electricity. So I guess if you need someone to brick your phone from overcharging, Sparkman is your guy. I was going to give his purpose like a 4, but then I read his little personality blurb on the Megaman knowledge base. Friendly to his comrades, Sparkman usually helps to charge them up when they need extra energy and can generate twice as high voltage as Elecman. However, he tends to be scatterbrained, and thus is not as good at focusing his power. And that absolutely bumps his purpose up to an 8. I imagine him being quite popular because of his charging powers. And for the personality I just described, I'll give him a 7. For his weapon, it's the Spark Shock. Using the twin electrodes he has in place for hands, he can fire electrical charges in an arc towards whatever enemy he wants to shock stiff. It's a pretty standard weapon for him, I feel, and I'll give it a 6 solely for the fact that his electricity is supposedly stronger than Elecman's, so cool. For safety and utility, I replaced the spark plugs from my car on my own one time, and let me tell you, that shit did not feel safe. And considering he has no arms, I don't know if you'd get much use out of him aside from charging your phone or maybe electrocuting someone. So I'll give him a 3 for safety and a 6 for utility. As for intimidation, look at that face. I'm not scared of anyone who is constantly going, ooh. That's a 4. And as for his music, it's honestly the weakest of Mega Man 3, which isn't saying much. It's still a great song. So I'll give it an 8. Just surprised that Sparkman was the one to get it and not that bitch-ass Snake Man. Fuck that guy! Finally, preference. I mean, he's fine. I give him like a 6.15 or something. Aside from my initial thoughts on his design, I don't really have strong thoughts one way or the other for this guy. Anyways, it's time to tally. Sparkman charged up a total of 61.15%. Not bad, not bad. But he could have done better. And hey, what do you know? I'm in agreement with everyone else for once. The popularity poll also ended with Sparkman at 61%. Not a bad job, if I say so myself. Anyways, Sparkman was a pretty okay Robot Master. I'm glad he's so unique. I'd rather he be freakish than unbelievably boring like Snake Man. I'm still getting over having to talk about that botch project, sorry. Hopefully this next Robot Master will get my mind off of him. And at last, we reach the end of Mega Man 3 with one of the most beloved Robot Masters ever. I can't really deny that myself either. I mean, Shadow Man, badass. For design, come on. Just look at him. Robots and ninjas are both cool, and this is both of them put together. The bright white contrasting with the deep navy blue on his body also makes for a very striking look. Though I doubt you'd want to be striking visually as a ninja, but nevertheless. I give him a 9. For creativity, a ninja is a pretty good inspiration for the idea of shadows. I'm not sure what else I would have chosen aside from, like, a boogeyman. I'll give him an 8 here, too. His purpose is also probably the most interesting aspect, which is puzzling because it's not definitively known. Shadow Man was supposedly made by aliens or something, but how would aliens know what Naruto is? Unless Naruto is made by aliens? And how would aliens be able to perfectly mimic Dr. Wily and Dr. Light's design philosophies? How strange. Anyways, the only real frame of reference I have is that Dr. Wily reprogrammed him for combat, so I guess I'll give him like a 6. For personality, it's quite different to what I think a ninja's personality would be like, and it definitely doesn't look like it fits with his appearance. Shadow Man is an impulsive prankster with a shallow way of thinking. I figured he'd be a little more serious, but that might just be me. I'll go ahead and give him like a 6 for personality, because despite it being a surprising fit, I think that characterization is fine. For weapon, he wields the Shadow Blade, which is just a big shuriken that pops away and then back to you, similarly to a boomerang. Which is fine. I like big ninja stars, and I like the idea of a ninja fighting with a huge one rather than just a bunch of small ones. I'll give him a 6 here too. For safety and utility, Shadow Man is the equivalent of a ninja bodyguard who can disappear in puffs of smoke and disguise himself. I don't think there's a wrong way to use that. I'll give him an 8 for safety because there's potential for pranks, and a 9 for utility. And as for intimidation, do you remember that thing I said about how Top Man wouldn't be scary even if he was cornering me in a dark alley? Well, it's kind of the opposite case for Shadow Man, one of the few robot masters with the potential to be actually intimidating. I'll give him a 7. As for his music, I think it's quite good. Not quite as banging as some of the earlier robot masters from Mega Man 3, but it's not bad by any means. I would give it like a 9, so still better than Sparkman's theme. And finally, we have preference. I mean, what are you expecting, a 2? He's an alien robot ninja. I don't know how much cooler you could get than that. I'll give him like an 8.99. Because as cool as I think he is, I don't know if he's in my personal top 10. Okie doke, it's total time. Shadow Man has snagged a final score of 76.99%. One of the highest scores so far, but not quite the highest. It may be a little bit before Time Man is getting booted from that top spot. And hey, look, we've got 2 matching scores in a row. The popularity poll also scored him a 76%, which is like really high, actually, now that I think about it. That's 3/4 of the Mega Man community agree that this guy kicks ass. Can you blame them? I sure can't, because Shadow Man does kick ass. And now we've come to another crossroads. Yet another game has come to pass, drawing us closer and closer to finishing this monumental project. This game's scores were a lot more contrasting than the last game. Mega Man 2's were all pretty balanced. Mega Man 3 has had quite the variety, however, from snakes to shadows. Now then, let's sort them out. From worst to best, here is each Robot Master from the third game ranked. Snake Man, Magnet Man, Spark Man, Hard Man, Needle Man, Gemini Man, Top Man, and unsurprisingly, Shadow Man is at the number 1 spot for this game. And for those keeping track at home, which I doubt most of you are, the combined total of the Robot Master's scores for this game is around 516.87%. It's honestly pretty interesting to see the design philosophy of the Robot Masters change as real lifetime progresses. And it'll be interesting to see how they evolve further, since we're only like a quarter of the way finished with this series of videos. But alas, this video has come to an end. Tune in at the start of next month to see how I treat the Robot Masters from Mega Man 4. For now, let's wrap up this video with a fan art showcase and some plugging of my various crap. Follow me on TikTok, Blue Sky, and Newgrounds. I post sometimes showing off my art and other creative thoughts. I also have a Twitter, but that place is basically a graveyard now, so I don't know if it's worth following me there. Worst case scenario, you don't follow me, and in that case I will curse your family for 1,000 generations. So no biggie. I also have a Discord server for my channel, The Hunk House. That's where me, my friends, and all my viewers hang out and talk, share art, and occasionally have game nights and whatnot. It's great! In terms of other things you should join or follow, I've got myself a second channel where I post art, music, bloopers, and more. I'm only putting it at the end of videos because I don't know how many people actually are aware of its existence. It's called GOOSE's Golden Gallery, and it's going to be in the description alongside my other social medias. Also, hey, become a headliner. That's what I call channel members. You get access to emotes on streams, first dibs on watching new videos most of the time, votes to decide on the priority of specific videos, a private channel in the Discord server, your name in the credits of videos, as well as a little doodle alongside your name. To get that doodle, you'll have to join the Discord server to let me know how you'd like me to draw your head. Feel free to commission me for art, by the way, contacting me via Discord or Blue Sky. I've kind of been short on money since I had to get my car fixed alongside other miscellaneous life stuff that's just sucked. Every little bit helps. You have no obligation to me, like you just watching to this point in the video is already enough to make me grateful. But just consider it, my art's pretty good, I think. Finally, if you have any fan art of me you'd like to share, tag me in it on social media or post it in the channel of my Discord server, and I'll put it at the end of my videos, with credit, of course. Okay, that's everything from me today. My name is Goose. I thank you very much for watching. And, y'all fuck with chalupas? Let me know in the comments if y'all fuck with chalupas. I need to know where my allies are. Okay, bye!